Hey guys, it's Lucy Kate and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing a Japanese language themed video, and I think it's been a while since I've done a video regarding studying Japanese. Way back this year, earlier this year, I believe in the end of March, I uploaded this video right here on basically how I study Japanese and how I managed to become fluent in 1 year. And even to this point, this video is still growing. I'm still gaining, many subscribers from there. So I know many of you have subscribed to my channel from this video. I did want to do more videos related to studying Japanese. So that's why in today's video, I'm going to talk about the 7 points in studying Japanese that I found difficult. And maybe if you guys are studying Japanese too, you might be able to relate. And if you have any other video requests for future videos regarding studying Japanese or life in Japan, feel free to leave them in the comments anytime. And without further ado, let's get into the video. In regards to my makeup, first of all, I did like this cutesy sort of makeup video. I believe I posted it 1 week before this video if I stay on schedule. Sorry, and I have my Otter with me down below if you see him. Before we dive in, I just want to say, a huge thank you again to anyone who watched my initial video in regards to how I study Japanese. And I do want to say that all of these videos regarding like my life experience in Japan, studying Japanese, these are all my personal opinions, my personal experience. We all have different journeys when it comes to studying languages, when it comes to living in different countries. A good thing about gaining views is I gain more subscribers, but a negative is the more people that see the video, the more hate, let's just say, you're bound to receive. And I have received some, comments here and there. Some I just delete because I don't want to see the negative, but I have received some negative comments and people pointing out how, my title for my video was misleading, which I don't think. But I also had a previous experience as a child studying Japanese, which obviously helped me. I did obviously have an advance, having family in Japan. And also another thing I want to say is some people, some of these keyboard warriors, let's just say, oh, there's no way you can speak Japanese, or you're just lying for views. That again, I just want to state here is absolutely false. I have a Japanese channel, which I reached 1,000 subscribers, by the way, which I will link down below, where I speak fluently in Japanese, and I would not lie for views. Like, I know that there's people out there that lie or over exaggerate for views, but all my videos are from my personal experience, my personal opinions, and I know that my true subscribers and people that watch my videos will know that as well. But I just wanted to point that out to get the negativeness out the way. Let's dive into the 7 things that I found were difficult when learning Japanese, and even to this day, some of them I do still struggle with. The first thing that I found really difficult was keigo. So keigo in English is, I believe, honorific speech. And this was a huge struggle when studying Japanese. I learned some Japanese words when I was a baby, like I said, but I didn't learn any keigo. So when I first started studying in school, I learned that there was different forms, and Japanese people change the speech depending on if they're speaking to a senior, someone who's older than them, or a senpai. It's really different to English. In English, obviously we have polite forms of polite ways of expressing things. For example, there's thanks, thank you very much. Like, that's just a really easy example. But we do have different expressions, but it's not forced upon that you have to use the desumasu. Like in Japanese, you have to use desumasu structure. Like, you have to use keigo, otherwise it's frowned upon in society. It was a huge struggle at first to adjust to having to switch between the languages, and also like past tense, present tense, future tense, like everything is different. And so I think that depending on which language is your native tongue, some languages I'm sure have something like keigo, like honorific speech, but depending on what language you're studying from, it can be very difficult at first, because not only are you trying to learn the past tense, present tense, future tense for the regular Japanese, like suru, shita. You're also learning it in the honorific speech form, like shimasu, shimashita. So it's very difficult at first to get used to this custom. The second thing that I thought of was the variety of alphabets or letters, let's just say. So in English we have A, B, C, D, E. We have the alphabet from A to Z. In Japanese you have multiple characters or alphabets, let's just say. So you have hiragana, katakana, kanji, and then romaji. In the beginning, I really struggled with this, again, like switching, which ones to use when writing. Now I'm used to it, but at the beginning it was very difficult. I think this one is one of those things that the more you study Japanese, the more you write in Japanese, you kind of get used to it. So it's just a matter of getting used to it over time. I still remember to this day that there was a time where I couldn't even write hiragana from the beginning to the end. I couldn't write it all, hiragana and katakana. It's just amazing to look back on, because back then I couldn't write it at all. That was a huge accomplishment, being able to write all of the hiragana, all of the katakana, to coming to this point now. But yeah, I think the variety of alphabets, the variety of characters is just one of those things that as you use more Japanese in your daily life, or as you study more, you do get used to this one. But the next one is something that I still struggle with to this day, and that is kanji. So the third thing that I found was really difficult about learning Japanese was kanji. Like I said, even though I can fluently speak Japanese now, there's still kanji that I can't read, I have to admit. And I think even native Japanese people, like people my age or people who are more used to, let's say, using the iPhone and not writing, even native Japanese speakers themselves sometimes forget how to write a certain kanji. But it's not just the writing, it's reading as well that is very difficult. Yeah, writing wise, I have to admit, probably now I wouldn't be able to write as much kanji than when I was studying Japanese in my junior to high school days, simply because I don't write that much anymore, like handwrite, especially in Japanese. I barely handwrite in Japanese, and so I'm always typing on either the computer or the iPhone, and so you can select the kanji, whereas when you're writing you have to remember each stroke and the direction of each stroke. Writing is definitely extremely difficult, but not just that, reading the kanji as well, because there's different ways of reading each kanji. So you have the onyomi and the kunyomi, and then not only that, but sometimes there's special ways of reading the kanji, a special version when it comes to names or places. So even to this day, there's names and for example, train station names or places or a person's name, I can't read all of it sometimes because there's just so many different ways to read the kanji that it gets so confusing. So I think kanji is probably going to be a lifelong journey for me and I'll constantly be learning more ways to read different kanjis, and then I might forget some kanjis. So yeah, it's a lifelong study journey, let's just say, when it comes to kanji. The fourth point that I found difficult when I studied Japanese was particles. So in Japanese, they use particles to indicate the grammatical functions of words in a sentence. So for instance, you have ga marks the subject, or marks the object, and ni indicates direction or time. I found it difficult to differentiate between the particles when I was first studying Japanese, and it's one of the most basic parts of the grammar structure, yet I really struggled with it, the difference between wa and ga, and let's say the difference between ni and e. Yes, I remember really struggling with it back when I was, studying Japanese with a textbook and studying for the Japanese proficiency tests, because those kind of questions come up in the exam. But I think when it comes to particles, it's sort of a feeling. I can't think of an example right now, but Japanese people would ask me the same question, how does this English grammar structure work? And sometimes I can't explain everything because it's more of a feeling. It just naturally feels right, so therefore you choose the correct grammar. And it's not the ideal way for me to say it, but the reason that I managed to get used to particles was just hearing it in my everyday life, living in Japan, like you start to develop a sense of, you know, it's no more of like not thinking logically, but just as a feeling. Like you kind of get a grasp on which particle would be the better one to use, which I know is not the best advice, but I'm not professional Japanese teacher. This is just my personal experience. So yeah, particles, I think sometimes even now I do make a mistake, but pretty much I kind of got it now, I think. The fifth thing that I found difficult when I studied Japanese was loan words, or basically katakana eigo or wasei eigo. So in Japanese, they use many words. Basically, katakana is made up of loan words that derive from different foreign languages. Of course, not just English, but French and German as well. I did actually previously make a video on English you would only hear in Japan. Basically, some words that, you know, Japanese people tend to sometimes mistakenly use when they're studying English, but they're actually words that they're actually katakana English or wasei eigo that is only used in Japan. This was a little confusing. Sometimes the katakana used in Japanese is confusing because it sounds like an English word, but the meaning has a completely different context. I mean, one of the examples I made in that video was, I think, misu. When you say miss, it's usually like you miss something or you miss a person, but in Japanese they abbreviate mistake for misu. So in Japanese, misu means you make a mistake, or somebody made a mistake. There's some katakana words that, you know, it sounds like it's English because it's in katakana, or it sounds like it's a foreign language because it's in katakana, but it has a completely different meaning. For example, let's see, arubaito. So in English, it's part-time job. Arubaito comes from the German language. But if you don't know German, you don't know what an arubaito is. Those kind of things. Just because it's katakana, it doesn't mean that it's English, and it doesn't mean that, you know, you use it in other languages as well. So I think that is like a whole other layer on learning Japanese, is learning the loan words, the katakana words as well. And okay, we have two more left. So the next one, number 6, is tones. So in Japanese, depending on the tone, on how someone speaks, it can completely change the meaning. There's 3 examples I thought of. Hana, there's like the meaning of nose and flower. Kumo is spider and cloud. And then ame is like rain and the candy. Depending on if you raise the first letter or the second letter, the vocabulary completely changes. So that was another one that I found difficulty with, like differentiating the different words and being able to pronounce them differently. And then the very last one that I found was difficult. I think this one is more to do with living in Japan. If you're studying Japanese from a textbook, it's usually in like Hyojingo, like in the standard Japanese. But living in Japan, you will hear many different accents and dialects, which is the same for any country. You know, in the US, there's a wide variety of dialects, and same for the UK as well. You don't really experience that until you either watch the TV shows or you move to that country. So when I moved to Japan, you know, hearing these different dialects, it was very confusing and I wouldn't be able to understand all of them. An example is I lived in Aichi. So in Aichi, we have Nagoya dialect and we also have the Mikawa dialect. And I had family members who spoke those dialects, and it was an adjustment at first because I couldn't understand all of the words. I will say that it's more the elderly population that uses strong Nagoya dialect or Mikawa dialect. Younger people tend to speak more standard Japanese, I'd say, or at least the area that I was. But yeah, the vocabulary is completely different. And another famous one is the Kansai dialect of like the Osaka and surrounding areas. It's extremely different to standard Japanese. It's difficult to adjust and like to understand it, but now I can understand Kansai dialect, but in the beginning I couldn't. But I think Kansai dialect you do hear a lot in Japanese TV because many comedians are from Osaka or like have Kansai dialect, so it is something that you would hear more on TV and in media. But there's different regional dialects. For example, Hokkaido and Okinawa and very rural areas have a very distinct dialect that I believe is, you know, difficult to understand, that I don't think I'd be able to understand all dialects even to this day. So I think it's really interesting, like depending on the area that you choose or where you're taken to by your job or school, you choose to live in Japan, you might pick up some different words from, each distinct region. So that was it on today's video, just sharing 7 things that I found difficult when I first studied Japanese. I don't know, maybe if you guys are studying Japanese too, you might be able to relate. If so, please let me know in the comments down below, which ones do you also find difficult, or is there any other things that you find difficult about studying Japanese? If you want me to do more studying Japanese related videos, I would be very happy to. Again, I'm not a professional Japanese teacher. All I can share you is my personal advice, my personal experiences. So yeah, personal experiences. Again, I do have many videos that I've uploaded all throughout this year in regards to life in Japan, and I have a playlist basically compiled of all those videos. So if you're interested, definitely check it out. I will link it in the description box. Any other requests regarding Japan or studying Japanese, I'd be more than happy to do. So leave a request anytime in any of the comment sections on my videos. So if you're not already, definitely hit the subscribe button. I try to upload every single weekend a wide variety of videos, not just videos related to Japan, but also makeup videos and hauls and vlogs and videos about my life here in Hawaii. And if you enjoyed this video, if you could relate to this video, please give this video a big thumbs up. Finally, to any of you who are beginning to study Japanese or who are on the journey of studying Japanese, I wish you the best of luck on your journey, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!